Well, the president's budget comes out tomorrow, but a lot of liberal groups, a lot of unions, they're protesting it today. They're delivering petitions back with more than 2 million signatures to the White House. These guys have a real problem with the proposed entitlement cuts, particularly what the president wants to do on Social Security. Democratic strategist Steve Laser would have delivered the petition to the White House himself, but he decided to hang out with us instead. And who can blame him? Steve, good to see you again.
Great to see you, Neil.
Your problem with this is what?
Well, I think if you need to raise revenue, if you need to do various different things to improve the economy, don't do it on the backs of the most vulnerable. Don't do it on the backs of seniors, many of whom earn $20,000 a year or less, and 70% of that income for those folks comes from Social Security. So any cuts for those folks really makes a big deal in their lives.
You call it a cut. They still get an increase in benefits. They're just changing the inflation formula so that on occasions it might be less, on some occasions it might be more. It's just a different formula.
Well, when we talk about seniors, one of the things I do is I go to AARP and I see what their calculations say. And they figure that the average senior is going to lose somewhere around $40 or $50 a year. Now, that doesn't mean that much.
By just switching to this index.
By just switching to CPI.
So their increase will be less than what they had been planning on.
Correct. And, that doesn't sound like a lot of money.
Increase.
Right? It doesn't sound like a lot of money to you and I. In 12 years, that's $50 a month. In, 24 years, that's $100 a month for folks who are not making that much money. So you retire at 65, by the time you're 89, you're getting $100 a month less. And for a lot of these folks, that makes a big difference.
But wouldn't you argue that even looking at Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid, some of the big entitlements they talk about, I know a lot of Social Security recipients hate even using the word entitlements because they write me and say, well, I've been putting into this and I deserve something out of it.
I'm right
I'll
there
leave
with
that aside.
Yeah.
What I'm looking at is it cannot be sustained the way it's going now. The fewer workers paying in for those who are retiring and taking money out isn't sustainable math. And even the president has now acknowledged that by offering this alternative or this fix. Why is that so bad to sustain a program?
A number of us have a perfect alternative, and that is raise the cap. Right now, the Social Security...
raise taxes.
Raise taxes. I know you hate it when I say that. But when we're talking about folks making over $113,000 a year, it would only affect those folks. And I've hit the cap a couple of times in my life. I didn't hit it last year. But I've hit the cap a couple of times in my life. It's not money that you count on. It's not part of your budget. It comes in August, September, October for some folks. And it's nice extra money. I'm not saying that, I don't have anything against people who are getting that extra perk at the end of the year. But it's an easy way to solve Social Security that doesn't hurt seniors.
You see what I say? We're getting back to, just raise more money rather than shave the growth of a program over the course of time so you could protect it. Now, you argued simply by raising the tax, much as they argued in the beginning, raise the income tax rate a little bit, will sustain Washington and pay the bills. Then more spending and more bills, so they want to raise taxes all the more. No one addresses the underlying problem. Your immediate solution, and you're not alone, many share this view, is just raise taxes, raise taxes, raise taxes.
Well, compared to hurting the vulnerable, that's an easy call for me.
Why do you instantly say hurting the vulnerable when this trajectory we're on, if we don't address it, will nothing for them?
Not if you raise the cap. If you raise the cap, that gives us a couple of extra dozen years. So now we're talking about...
How do you know? Whatever projections we make, we're always off.
Well, it's definitely going to push things out at least another 30 to 40 years, according to most calculations.
It's like Medicare. It's like Medicaid. It's like any slight adjustment in trying to slow the growth in something is greeted as killing Granny or forcing Alpo down her throat. Why is it always portrayed that way?
Well, I had another solution one of the last times that I was on talking with you, and it was that we need to go back to a situation where we have pensions for everyone. And that's going to take some of the pressure off of Social Security, at least. Now, Medicare, I have to sit here and tell you that I don't have a great solution for that right now myself.
But you will acknowledge whether it is Social Security, you're a fan of more taxing to pay the bills, and all of these have to be addressed, right? Mm-hmm. So do you think the president's loyal base kind of sticks it to him when he wakes up and sees that reality, and they don't?
I think everybody sees that reality. I just think we have a different way of addressing the problem. I think, anytime you have a situation like this, I'm going to say that the vulnerable should not be harmed. I know I keep saying that. That's really what concerns me in this whole situation. I'm seeing people 70, 89 years old.
So the solution all the time is raise taxes, raise taxes.
Not always. Not always. I'm happy to look at situations where we can cut costs, but not at the expense of the vulnerable.
So you wouldn't touch Social Security?
I wouldn't touch Social Security.
Okay. Well, therein lies the problem. You're just not budging.
I'm budging, just in a different direction.
Okay. We'll have a lot more after this, including